Hey guys, I'm Kenny. I'm the one of the founders of STR Insights, and I'm going to be giving you guys some tutorials of how to use STR Insights to analyze properties. Now, I have a private team, and we analyze between 10 to 20 properties every single day across the entire United States. And part of that analysis is using STR Insights and finding ways that we can actually figure out how much revenue each of those properties are going to make, even in these challenging times of the economy changing. So I want to give you and get you guys a little bit into the mind of Kenny Bedwell and how I use STR Insights to figure out properties. Now, the private team I work with, they send me, like I said, between 10 to 20 every day that I actually vet. And so I'm going to show you some of the properties they sent. I haven't gone through in a deep dive, but some of them have pretty good returns. And so, if you're interested in those properties, feel free to jump on them. They aren't reserved for anybody. So, other than that, I just wanted to kind of give you guys an example of you don't need a revenue calculator to figure out how much a property is going to make. You just need good data. And I'm going to give you the start of how to do that. Now, let me give you a little disclaimer, I guess a little caveat is don't just take, this method and say, oh, that's how much revenue it's going to make. Obviously, go and look at other data sets too and check out other resources. Call the property manager. A lot of times people are just afraid to call the listing agent of that property and get the financials. You might be surprised. The property might be performing than what we're predicting. So it's really up, you got to put in that extra effort, but this helps you. It gives you the idea and it gives you the advantage to quickly analyze properties in less than 5 minutes. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. There we go. Give me a second. And just so you guys know, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm going to try to find the chat here and make sure I can see what's going on. So, but yeah, put questions in the chat. Feel free to ask me questions about the tool. I'm here to talk about particular properties and how I use the tool to analyze them. But if you have actual questions about, wait, how are you getting that data, or why are you coming to those conclusions, please put them in the chat. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So for those of you who are not familiar with STR Insights, this is what our dashboard looks like. I'm going to run through this one very quickly. We have a couple demo videos out. So if you're interested in, seeing more about in a deeper dive of each of the columns and some of the filters here, then please check out our demos. But what makes STR Insights unique from all other data providers in the vacation rental data space is the fact that we include what we call valuation data and a destination type for each market in the United States. So what is valuation data? So valuation data is a representation of the values of every short-term rental or vacation rental in a particular market. Now, it's an average value in this view here of the average, but we can also toggle and see the value of bedroom counts in particular markets as well. So what is the average value of a 7-bedroom property in Coloma, Michigan? I have no idea where that is, but and it says it should be around $660,000. Now, does that mean I can go Zillow or Realtor.com and look at 7 bedrooms and find a 7-bedroom for $660,000? The answer is I don't know. It depends on what's available on the inventory. It depends on if people are overpricing their homes. It really depends. But this is telling me the average value of current vacation rentals in that market. We get this data by actually taking all the listings and their addresses and then getting the values similar to, but not like a Zestimate. We're not using Zestimate information. We're actually using a third-party vendor. We pay for the data to get the valuation for every single property that we choose. So that's an important point there, is this valuation is of vacation rentals only, and it's their value in the market, not necessarily the cost to purchase or the prices that you might see in the market. Finally, we've got the gross revenue here, which is of the last 12 months. So it's a trailing 12 months. So right now we're looking at data from July 2021 to June 2022 through the end of June 2022. And you put those numbers together and you get a gross ROI. Now, keep in mind that you first want to start out by looking at the gross ROI of the markets, and then you can dive into each of the specific bedroom counts that we have available data for and clean data for. What I mean by that is some markets, especially small markets, so markets that have less than 100 active listings, a lot of those markets, there aren't a lot of properties in those markets. So it's harder to know and to trust the valuation data or even the revenue data because some of the listings could be new. So we might be missing a few bedroom counts from some of the medium or smaller markets. But for the most part, if you look at our large markets, we'll have, bedroom counts 1 through 10 or 7 or whatever it may be, depending on the market. So we have data all across the country that you can specify by destination type. So show me the top beach, mountain, ski, lake, river, national park, historical markets, and you can search by particular regions or individual states as well. Really cool tool. Encourage you all, obviously, to check it out and subscribe. But I'm not here to just kind of give you a demo of this. Well, I'm here to actually show you some properties and analyze them. So let's go and get started into that. So once again, going through, I get sent properties because Bill, Faith, and I run a program called Bill and Kenny's Hot Picks. So in Bill and Kenny's Hot Picks, we are able to see the top performing properties in the countries where we're checking. And what we're doing is we're trying to show the people who have invested in the program, we're giving them the properties that they can go out and then purchase based on a minimum of 15% gross ROI, which is on average between 25 to 30% cash on cash return. So with that being said, so I see a lot of properties every day. So I'm going to show you, let's actually dive into my process. So I'm going to click through some of these. Now, guys, keep in mind, these are the ones that get sent to me from my team. And they're saying, hey, Kenny, I think this is a good deal, but you tell me how much you think you can make. And so that's where I come in. So I'm going to give you the high level analysis. We have a lot of other data on our back end that we use for Bill and Kenny's Hot Picks. But in terms of using STR Insights, let me show you how I do it. Okay, so I don't know. Actually, some of these markets, some of them I've heard of. I've never been to any of these markets. And I literally have only seen these properties today. And I'm just going to walk you guys through a few things that I do to analyze these properties. This is going to be high level. Obviously, for the sake of time, you do want to do a deeper dive and do some other things, but this is going to be a great starting place. Because let's face it, you need to be checking several property listings a day. And this is going to be the best way to quickly vet through them to find the right ones that are going to be the potential deals out there. And not every single one of these are like, oh, wow, that could be a good deal. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good deal. So please keep that in mind. So here's one. It's listed for $609. It's in Moneta, Virginia. No idea where that is. And it has only been on the market for 1 day. There's a lot of people looking at it. One thing that caught my attention when I first looked at this property is actually the text here. It's obviously sitting on a lake. It's a decent looking property. If you scroll through the pictures here, it obviously needs a few touches, decor. You can kind of put your opinion in here, but it's on a beautiful property. It has a lot of opportunity and sits on this lake. It's not a bad price for a lake property. What I really like about this, and guys, this should be something that gets you excited, is something that says grandfathered for short-term rentals. What that tells me is that this area, Moneta, has regulations of vacation rentals already set in place. So assuming that you can truly be grandfathered in, this is where you would do additional research, this potential property can actually do, you're essentially not only on a lake, but you now put yourself on what I call a short-term rental island, meaning that there's a limited amount of competition. The city has capped the competition, and this gives you a competitive advantage. And let's check out what properties that look like this on the lake are doing nearby in STR Insights, because it's really going to tell us whether this is a good deal or not, and to get excited about it or just move on. So let's go to STR Insights. Now, there's a couple ways to do it. I'm going to show you So we're going to do the long way first, and then I'm going to do it for the other properties. I'm going to show you the quick and dirty way of really analyzing properties. But let's familiarize ourselves with Moneta. So we're going to find Moneta in our city search filter here and just search it. So overall, Moneta as a city average is an 8% ROI, which really isn't that great. The average valuation is $969. The average revenue is $83,000. Okay, like that's not super great. That doesn't stand out to me. But what are the individual bedroom counts? How are they performing? So if I click in the bedroom counts here, and remember this property was a 4-bedroom. So we're going to look at the 4 bedrooms. So it looks like the 4 bedrooms are doing around $97,000 in the 75th percentile. So the 75th percentile performing properties is doing $97,000. But the valuation here is over $1 million. What was this property listed at? 609. Okay, so obviously there's a little bit of a discrepancy here, but remember, this is value of STR surrounding it. So we might have found an opportunity here with an underpriced property that can be grandfathered in as a short-term rental and with a revenue potential of $97,000 in the 75th percentile. Now, I'm assuming, without a lot of knowledge of this market, once again, this is a high-level analysis, so I encourage you to dive deeper into this, but I'm assuming the 90th percentile performing properties are going to be on the lake, and the 75th ones might be off the lake. And you can verify that in a second in our city profile view when I click into the map view and see where the properties are. But if I look at the 4 bedrooms in the 90th percentile, it goes all the way up to 108. So now we're talking even higher numbers here, which is awesome. So let's skip the, so this is only 9%, but our valuation is a lot lower because this property, the price is lower. So let's actually dive into the property itself and check out the view. Okay, so what I'm going to do is the first thing I always do is, especially with analyzing a new market, I can see where the top performing properties are. And what I mean by top performing is properties in the 90th percentile. So they're like the top 10th percentile or performance percentile of properties in terms of revenue. And they're all in this like Northern Shore area. However, I want to find out where this property we're looking at is located. So I'm just going to open this up to the 50th to see where all of these properties are located. This isn't all properties. This is the 50th percentile and above, meaning the average and above. And we can see their individual bedroom counts and their revenue, and then click into their Airbnb listings. So looking at Moneta here, once again, we've got the 4 bedroom. Now I'm going to ignore this table because this is giving me a guide. This is giving me helpful information. But this number here, it only is going to reflect where those properties are making that number, not across the entire lake. Maybe. We need to figure that out. So what I want to do now is I want to go and actually figure out where this property is located on the lake. So I see it's near this like Betty's Island. And what I'll do is I'll just scroll out here from a high level. So it looks like it's in that hot zone in the North Shore area, which is down here. So I'm just going to zoom in on my map here. And I'm going to look at, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select in the filter, it was 3 bedrooms, I think. 4 bedrooms, excuse me. 4 bedrooms, because that matters. Okay, so there's not a lot on this shore. And remember, the reasoning for that was because there's regulation here. So this is key. So what's the opportunity? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at similar properties. And like I said, we're going to go high level here. So the best thing to do is to click into each of these properties and see how they're performing. I have it opened at the average. So I'm going to see all of the properties here. So I'm seeing really strong numbers at this northern part. But if I go down here, 106, across the lake, 80, 101, 103, 89, 120, 85, and so on. And I can actually click in and I can see these properties and I can get more specific. And I can say, is this a similar comparable property to what we're seeing here? The answer is probably not, in terms of like, look how nice this property is and the listing and everything. You could probably make this property just as nice by obviously doing some major rehabbing and some updating. But this is a very nice property. And just looking at it, once again, high level, yes, it does sit on the lake, but it's got a really nice garage. It's the inside's updated. so in my mind, when I'm looking at this property, so I'm assuming that they're going to compare and do about the same. That's probably not going to be the case. This is only at 106. And so I would assume that I need to find another comparable property in this area, general vicinity, and see which one matches in terms of looks as well. Let me go here. So we did get one question. Someone said, will this be available as a replay? Yes, it's going to be on our YouTube channel. We're going to keep it on our page and probably send it out as well. Last, I'm going to check out one other property here and nearby, and let's get a look at this one. So this one actually looks very similar to what we saw, and this one did 80,000. It does have an updated kitchen, and it's on the lake. It looks like a very nice property. It's got kayaks, a few other things. We could go into details and look at individually, but what this is telling me, just looking at a few of these comparable properties, let's look at another one here, see if it pops up. This one's got a hot tub. Some of the pictures probably need to be redone, but this is a decent property. It looks somewhat updated and it's got amenities and things. But what this is doing is giving me an idea of what's the standard, what's the barrier of entry I should have for this property. So if I were to throw this property up right now in its as is condition, I would not expect it to do in that 100,000 range, even though it is in a location where it could do the $100,000 range. But looking at the interior, knowing that I need to make some updates to the flooring, like some major updates, really, I would need to spend some cash and purchase the property. So with that in mind, you would then need to estimate how much cash for rehab that could get you to the point of these properties that are doing between 90 to over 100,000. And what amenities and things do you need to add? So if you wanted this 106, I think there was one that was doing 101, or even I think this one was doing 80. It's probably underperforming, but you need to add things. You need to improve the property. So I'm not going to say, okay, this is the revenue number I think it can do, because I don't think it's going to do above the 50th percentile in its current state for the majority of investors, meaning that if I took this property and rented it day one, do I think it would hit above the 50th percentile without doing any marketing or any extra effort? No way. So take it out as I think it's got great potential. Might be a little overpriced in terms of for the returns, but we know that properties in this area can do around 100K. We know that, but they just have to reach that standard. And what's that standard? The nice interior, obviously sitting on the lake, the game rooms, those additional factors. So I don't think this property can do 100. And so for me, I know right there, if it can't do 100 or even 90, then is that a good deal for me? And the answer is no for me personally. It might be for you. But knowing that, if I can answer that question right away, I know to throw that property out and go on to the next one. So, and I'm going to do just that for the sake of time and everything else. But if you're interested, the address is 3409 Lakewood Forest Road, Moneta, Virginia. Okay, let's go to the next property. So, and I'll just repeat again, if you have questions, throw them up in the chat. I'm happy to discuss. We can talk about the data or whatever else. This one, let's talk about Port Boulevard. So this is near Crystal Beach. This is another property I got today. So this is like a almost beachfront property. You could even, that looks like almost in the water. So yeah, but a tier 2 is kind of a step, not necessarily a step back in terms of looks and everything, but you're almost open. You've got all, this one house in front of you, but this is a very nice property. Looks updated on the interior. You've got great views of the ocean, literally walking distance, steps away from the beaches. I love it. No pool, but a lot of the beach houses in this market do not have pools, and you'll notice a lot of them don't even really have like concrete driveways or driveways that aren't dirt. So that's just something to know about this particular market, Port Boulevard or Crystal Beach. So let's check it out in the data. So we started in the city dashboard, and that's cool and all, but let's do the quick and dirty version. So we're looking at a 4-bedroom property. I'm going to go ahead and leave this open, and I'm just going to put in I'm going to put in Port Boulevard. Okay, so in the search here, we're just going to skip straight to it. Now, and this is what I do. I don't even go through the dashboard. I don't look at this data yet. I just want to see what comparable properties are doing nearby. And that's the fastest way to get some sort of internal confirmation in your mind, at least, that this could be a potentially good deal and you should do more research on it. Because like I said, we need to go through a lot of properties to find the right ones, to find the good ones. And we need to find a quick method that's backed by data to be able to vet through the properties that aren't performing to whatever our ROI standards are. So let's find where this property is. So it is, I believe, near Crystal Beach. Let me open this up. So it's on this road, Kala Drive, and there's Crystal Beach right there. Okay, so I think I can find that pretty easily. So there's Crystal Beach. We'll just go, just zoom in a little bit here. This is the road. Perfect. Okay. I love this. So we've got the revenue percentile open. We've got the 4 bedrooms. Now we got all these properties. This is probably the one that's in the water, literally in the water. That's doing 173, all right, on the last 12 months. This one's doing 172. Wow, that's pretty close to 173 as well. Let's click into some of these, and we'll let that load. This one here is doing 167. I really like that. That's a tight grouping here. 179. Holy cow. 143. This one looks further back. Let's confirm that. And then here's another one. This one's doing only 149, 150. I mean, guys, this is a tight radius here. I mean, we're talking like less than 1/10 of a mile, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 comps. So we can get a fair estimate of what this property is going to do based on just the last 12 months of data. Yeah, so Chris, just to answer your question while we're talking about this, yeah, so the revenue is calculated by taking, the data from July 2021 to June 2022. I mean, it is an estimate, but we're going into Airbnb and we're actually tracking their calendars and seeing the bookings and determining, how much their ADR is based on the bookings they're getting. So that's how it's determined. I mean, it is an estimate in a sense of that because we're not connected directly into their bank accounts to know what the exact amount is, and there really is no way to do that except be connected into their bank accounts. So yes, it is an estimate. So that's what everybody else does as well. Okay, so let's take a look at this property. So we've clicked on several of these. Looks like one property management company owns a lot of them, and they're very nice on the interior. They have beach views, and I can scroll through the pictures, but the gist is it's very similar in terms of the looks. The only thing that that kind of sticks out to me about this property is it's kind of small for a 4-bedroom, 1,700 square feet. But in terms of like the other properties nearby, it's got a similar interior, similar views. And really just, this one has like a little barbecue. I guess that's really different. But you have an opportunity to actually have some value adds that these properties don't have to increase your revenue potentially. And so once again, that goes into looking into the market a little bit more and seeing what are some of the top performers and what are they doing to differentiate themselves. This is a very nice property, but I mean, honestly, the difference between this one and just this listing is they've got lawn chairs, like really nice wood lawn chairs out. So it's not really hard to add that kind of stuff to push those revenue numbers. So guys, out of the properties I'm going to show you, this is probably the best, one of the better deals I've seen. I mean, once again, just looking at it from a high level, you're looking at a revenue range between 150 all the way up to 170. I think it was 180. I saw one was 180. Was there one 173? So somewhere in that range. And even with a setback, what if we said it could do 140 this year instead of 170? I mean, that's still a really good compared to the price. So our price 800. So guys, this property right here, I might be, if I'm you and you can afford the budget, I might be calling for some more information. Because this is probably one of the better ones that I've seen today that hit the market. It's only been on the market for 1 day, so you heard it here first. You have a heads up. And so the address is 1890 Atlantis Lane, Port Boulevard, Texas. Something to keep in mind about this market, though, it is a little more remote than, say, like Galveston and some of the other areas. I've talked to some investors who've invested in this market, and they said it's not as easy to find, like these cleaning companies and maintenance workers, but obviously it's working for other folks. So you take the time, you'll find the resources in this market. It is a vacation rental market. So I think this is a great property. And we have some strong comparables nearby that we just confirmed. And they're all like, it's a pretty tight revenue range as well. And I really like to see that. And that gives me a lot of confidence, and I get excited about those kind of properties. So that's something I would take. And I'm like, sweet, I need to be calling the listing agent. I need to be doing more due diligence, looking at some more data sets. Now I need to start studying this market if I'm unfamiliar with it, to figure out, regulations and other things, permitting, insurance, all the 9 yards, to see, truly to build out a true pro forma, to know what this property can really do in terms of cash on cash, and also, even appreciation as well. So keep that stuff in mind. I mean, that's the whole point. So, all right, let's move on. We'll take a look at a couple other properties, and we're going to go out west now. I want to take you guys around the country, so everybody feels like their markets or their area of the country was covered. So the next one is in California. So this is Oakhurst, California. So Oakhurst, California is near Yosemite National Park. This property, if I go down here, this is a description, if I can find it, or did I pass it? Where is it? Does it have a description? Oh, there it is. Okay. So it's been on the market for 3 days. It's a 4-bedroom. It's about the same size as the last property we looked at. They're calling it an A-frame home, I guess, because of the A-frame part there. So, and they're saying that there's some stuff that's been newly added, and it's looking really good. And then it's already a successful Airbnb with a 5-star rating. So we're going to try to come up with a revenue range. But guys, ultimately, the biggest help is getting on the phone and calling the listing agent to figure out what the revenue was. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's exactly what you're going to do, and you can't do a penny more. That's not true. And I would actually encourage you to try to find those value adds to increase the revenue. But looking at this property, it's a really cool property, though. I do think you could add things. Obviously, like it's got a really cool interior design, and I'm sure they're just killing it. However, it's a cool couch. There is like no hot tub. There's nothing on the outside there besides this like little pavilion area on the balcony. So I would definitely look at adding more to this particular property on the outside, just to increase, and I'm sure that would increase its revenue. But let's use STR Insights to validate whether this could potentially be a good deal or not. So I'm going to go to Oakhurst, and once again, this is how I usually do it, doing the quick and dirty, looking at 10 to 20 properties a day. This is the fastest way to do it. So we're going back here. It's a 4-bedroom. I've already got my 4-bedroom checked. I've already got the revenue percentile open. The reason I do this is I want to find all the comparables across the entire market. When I put this down to the 90th percentile, the number, so this is on 4 bedrooms, it shrinks the number of properties here, and it opens it up. I want to see all the properties in that area, because you can notice there's more here and here, and that just gives me a better idea of what all the properties in that particular area I'm targeting are doing. So let's zoom in. So I think the property is located down here. Now I knew this one's going to be a little bit tricky to analyze, but again, I have a rough idea of what it can do. So here's Oakhurst. Here's this little highway here, and it's just tucked in there. And it was a 4-bedroom. So it's going to be down here. And we can zoom in a little more and just kind of hover over these properties. And we can look, and this is all within, I think, like half a mile, if that. We might look at some of these that are within half a mile. But, wow, there's a 4-bedroom doing $214. I can click it and say, wow, is that a comp of this property? Probably not. Just looking at the quality, there's like a hot tub inside and so on. So that one is an outlier. Here's one doing 88 that I can click into. We'll let that load. There's one doing 87. Okay. There's one doing 72. And then there's one doing 100. All right. And I can take a look at the 214 one, the 79, 78. So We know one stands out as an outlier of 214, and maybe there's some things we could do to get the revenue higher, but I doubt we're going to be able to match that with this particular property that we're looking at here. However, by looking at the other properties in the area, we can see that, what makes them special and why are they doing the revenue that they're doing. And these all have nice interiors. Some have views, and this, you're looking at it to make sure these are good comps. But there's a tight revenue range here: 88, 87, 100, 78, and 72. So between 72 to, maybe, where's that $100,000 one? Let's see if this pops up. Yep, it did. Okay. So this house here, man, the pictures aren't great. They're making 100. So this looks like probably a bigger house. Yeah, I mean, they've got the hot tub. They've got some of these outside features that maybe these other homes don't offer that attract people to them. So I really like, so it looks like you can actually add some value to your property and push that $100,000 range. But once again, we have a tight range of 78, 79, up to, I think, 87 even in this area. So between, I would, let's just say high level, we're not diving in too much deeper, but between 80 to maybe 95,000 based on this property. Now you got to add some things to it. So the question is that if it's going to make between 80 to 90,000, is that enough for you to, dive in deeper and meet your revenue goals? If it is, then you better start call listing agent. Let's actually get the revenue. Let's get the financials for the last year. It looks like it was only completed in January, so I'd love to see what they're pulling in so far. But yeah, I think this is a really cool property, really cool interior design, but it needs some things on the outside to really compete and push the level there. So if you're liking the, $80,000 to $90,000 range, with the $700,000 purchase price for the ROI, you might be interested in this property, and I'd recommend calling and doing further research. If not, move on, go to the next one. It's really up to you in terms of what you're looking for. Let's go to the last one here. So the last one's in Murphy, North Carolina. So let's find out where Murphy, North Carolina is, because I don't want to offend anyone from North Carolina if I take a guess. So Murphy, North Carolina is near the North Carolina-Georgia border. I think the Smokies are somewhat over here, or this whole area. This is kind of like the beginning of it. You've got Blue Ridge down here. There's Cherokee is somewhere around here in North Carolina. But anyway, it's a great, beautiful place up in the mountains. It's a little remote, but it's definitely got great views, and you can see that in this particular property here. Nice, typical cabin. They did not take great pictures, and sometimes I love that and hate it at the same time. And the reason why is because I have to look at a shot like this to see, wow, look at this particular, look at that view. Like, why didn't they take a shot from standing here and make that their cover photo for this property or whatever? But I mean, that's a pretty good mountain view. Not a 10 out of 10, but definitely something that you look for in a mountain property with a view. But here you can see it's a very nice property. It's got a great interior. It looks like a typical cabin. And it's only $400,000. It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath at 2,300 square feet. Okay, let's see how long it's been on the market. It's been on the market for 6 days. It is kind of popular, but let's see if it can actually, so that they tell you some of the stuff about it and so on. Now, the problem with some of these areas, it's a little remote, and I'm going to show you that in a second, looking at the map. However, it is somewhat near this like big highway, so there's an advantage there. But it's between Wolf Creek and Johnsonville. So let's actually check out Murphy, which we did already. We've got to select the 3-bedroom. Okay, we've opened it up. There we go. Now let's find Johnsonville and Wolf Creek, and let's see what properties are in there. And you'll notice all these properties are spread out. So that tells me that it's kind of a very remote area. Now, there are obviously rentals here, and there's people living here, but they're spread out. So this looks like 112. This one was 62, 55, 27, 34. So this 112 without even looking at it. I don't want to spend too much time rinsing and repeating the process, but this one looks like an outlier. I wonder if we can even see the data. Let's click on a couple of these before we just start going through them. And then I think this one too. And then let's see why this guy's underperforming. There we go. Let's click on that one. Okay. So yeah, so this one doesn't have any views, so that's probably why it's underperforming, and I wouldn't really give it a fair comp. But if we look at the other two properties, this is a nice property. Not super great views, but it's a nice property, and the interior looks a little unique. And this one has amazing views, and I think this one was the $62,000 one. Let me just make sure I don't want to. Yep, that's the one that's doing 62. So we know that it's got a hot tub. It's a nice looking cabin, and it's got great views off the deck here. Almost. Well, let's verify that because sometimes people take drone shots and it's a little misleading. So, okay, not perfect, but you can see you definitely have some long range views there, and that's really nice. So definitely something they've done a good job with their photos. Some of their photos, that's pretty bad, but definitely some opportunity here. But this is kind of the standard in the area, which means there could be some opportunity. So I guess to kind of wrap it up here, not to spend too much time on this particular property, but in my judgment, looking at it, now this property, unfortunately, I just clicked into this link and it didn't load. And the reason why is they probably sold it recently or it's gone offline. So it's hard to say why this one's performing the way it is. But even if it was doing one, even if I could look at it, it's kind of an anomaly. So for me as an investor, that's a risk standpoint. Do I look at this and say, I can do the same as this property? Or do I see it as well, it's the only one, it could be something different, and the estimate could be off. What is it? So that's a comfort level. And if you're no, I think my property could do that, then obviously dive in deeper. But for me, looking at these two numbers, I can start to see a range. And granted, some of these aren't great comparables because they don't have the views as this one property did. But there aren't a lot of properties in this area. So I would keep that in mind, but this could be potential. But honestly, I'm going to see something around 60,000 just as a rough revenue because that's what this property is doing. But that range and seeing, and you can obviously add some value to it. But if you think that's a good investment, then obviously you should be checking out this property here. It's at 295 Oak Ridge Estate, Murphy, North Carolina. Yes, Brian, this will be reposted once done. So I might even include some of the property links as well so that you guys can, if you're interested in it. But I think this is a really cool property. I would just want to do a lot more research because we don't have we have somewhat of a range here, but we need to dive in deeper and we need to truly understand this market and figure out why these properties here are doing the way they are and why this one is an anomaly, and maybe get some other research and maybe look at some of these markets as well nearby because they seem closer than Murphy overall. So, okay, I know that wasn't that was kind of a vague way of looking at it, particularly for this property, but that's the way you start. Because what you want to do is filter down. You're going to be looking at, once again, you're going to look at a lot of different properties and you need a quick way to be able to go through them with data instead of saying, I think I'm going to plug the address into a calculator and see what it's going to do and make a guess off of that. Because guys, they're looking at a radius. They're not looking at comparable properties. And that's exactly what you need to do is look at comparable properties to figure out what a good revenue range would be before you dive in deeper. So I guess in conclusion, that's pretty much the gist of how I do it, just using STR Insights in its current form to find comparable properties. I will take a second and ask if anybody has any questions or anything like that. Just post them in the chat here. And if not, then we will wrap things up. So I'll give it 1 second. Okay. Let me just make sure there are no questions on I think we had it on YouTube as well. Make sure there's no questions on YouTube. Okay, cool. So it doesn't look like we have any major questions or anything. So I'm going to stop sharing and say, oh, here we go. Finally, it came in. Oh, now all the questions are coming in. All right. So sorry about that, guys. I'll hit those. So Kim asks, hey, Kim, when looking in small markets, how do you look at comps? Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I mean, you can only look at properties that are there in that market for comparables. So I would recommend, first off, if you don't see a lot of comparable properties in the market that you're looking in, start increasing and decreasing the bedroom count. So if I'm looking at a 3-bedroom and I don't see a lot of 3-bedrooms, I would include 2s and 4s just to see if there's more of one particular bedroom count or not. The other thing to do too, similar to this situation, and probably something I should have done, is looked at the markets surrounding it, because we were at the very edge of Murphy, North Carolina, but there was like Ducktown, which I know is a different market in Tennessee, McKaysville in Georgia. What were those markets and how are they performing? And they could give me a rough idea as well. So there's kind of 2 techniques there that you could do if you're not seeing a lot of great comparable properties. So great question. What tools do you use to scrape data for revenue and valuations? So we create our own scripts that go in and actually pull the data. We pay for a vendor that provides us the valuation data based on the addresses that we give them. So we take all the addresses from Airbnb and Vrbo, and we take them and we give them to a vendor, and they give us back through their API, because we pay for it, the valuation information on a monthly basis, so you can stay up to date. Thank you. Jessica said, I'm still looking and sometimes get overwhelmed by all the data. I do too. So Jessica, I know we talked before, but it's great to, kind of dial in on a couple markets and just stay focused on them, because something usually does pop up every now and then. But yeah, we can talk further offline too about that. Okay, guys, I hope that answers the majority of the questions. I'll give it 1 second. I know that they kind of came in all at the same time, but once again, this will be reposted so you can watch it at your own leisure and maybe go side by side. Chris has a question. He says, when there are 2 comparable properties, but the revenue is drastically different, even, for example, 50K and 100K, how do you determine an average revenue amount? So Chris, that's a tough one. I mean, you either look for a third property, but if you don't have that third property, then you need to dive into those properties, those listings. So why is try to figure out what's special about that market. One thing I didn't talk about is you need to learn, like if you're going to really evaluate a market, you need to learn about what performs well in each market. So I'll give you guys an example. If you look at in STR Insights, if you look at the top performing properties in the 90th percentile or above, we even have 95th of Ellijay, Georgia, you'll see the majority of the top performing properties. So Ellijay is a mountain town. If you don't know that, mountain vacation area, the majority of the top properties are not on the top of mountains with mountain views, which that's kind of backwards. They're actually all on streams or rivers, the majority of them. And what I learned from that, because I was like, that's weird. Why is that? So there's a great fishing and trout fishing community there that a lot of people go in North Georgia to go do, specifically in Ellijay. And that's what the rivers and streams are known for. So it's more desirable to be on the river than up on top of the mountain with the mountain views. For the rest of us, we're like, well, I want a mountain view. But the mountain view properties are priced higher than the properties on the river. So you need to go to answer your question, Chris, go do the research, learn the markets, what maybe the 50K property is underperforming because it doesn't, it's got the mountain view and the other property is on the river, but you got to study that and research that. Maybe it has amenities like the hot tub, the pool, proximity to something that is making it stand out to give it that extra boost. And if you believe that, if that's the case, then you can say, maybe my property performed closer to this one. Now, one property really isn't enough for me to feel comfortable to say, oh yeah, I know I can do those numbers. So I would encourage you to try to do some more research and check out other bedroom counts or other markets nearby to get more comparables, because that's the best way to do it, to gain that confidence to know that you're not taking a massive risk into a particular property by only looking at one. I hope that was helpful. I don't know if it was or not, but anyway. So yeah, any other questions or comments, guys? And you guys can ask questions about STR Insights as well, about our tool and how we, I know we talked about how we get the data, but maybe even cool features we're coming out with. I don't know. So anyway, okie dokie. I think that's it. Okay, cool. Yeah, you're welcome, Chris. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for hopping on. I hope this was beneficial and helping you guys kind of quickly go through the initial search process of finding properties and figuring out how much they're going to make. And I hope you, and if any of you guys have questions about STR Insights and the data or how we do it, feel free to reach out. Reach out to our support line. I'm the one who usually answers it, so you're talking to me directly, or reach out to me personally as well on Facebook or any other social media, and I'll get back to you. So, all right, thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed it.